The planet Arca 7 was wild. Its forests were thick and green, but dangerous. Strange creatures moved in the shadows. The air smelled sharp, and every step could be deadly. A young human girl, Lyra, moved carefully through the underbrush. Her boots sank slightly in the soft, wet soil. She was alone. Her ship had crashed 2 days ago, leaving her stranded. Supplies were low, and the forest seemed alive with unseen eyes. Lyra stopped suddenly. A low growl came from the bushes ahead. Her heart jumped. She froze. Then she saw it. A creature, unlike any she had ever seen, stepped into the open. It was young but dangerous looking. Its eyes glowed faint green, and sharp teeth gleamed as it sniffed the air. A predator. And it was staring at her. The creature crouched low. Its muscles tensed. A growl rolled out its throat, deep and threatening. Lyra's hands trembled. She knew most humans would have run. She knew that running would trigger the predator's chase instinct. But something inside her didn't want to run. Instead of fear, she felt a strange calm. She remembered what her father had told her. Sometimes courage is not running. Sometimes it is standing your ground. So she did the unexpected. She crouched slightly, her eyes locked on the predator's, and she growled back. Not loudly, not threateningly, but firmly. For a moment, the predator froze. Its ears twitched, and it tilted its head. This was not a normal reaction. Normally, humans screamed and ran. But this girl, she was different. The forest was silent. Only the leaves rustled in the wind. Lyra could feel her heart beating fast. She slowly reached for a small piece of dried meat in her pack. She held it out, careful not to move too fast. The predator sniffed the air. Its tail flicked. Slowly, it stepped closer. Every step was careful, cautious. It was hungry, but it was also curious. Lyra took a deep breath. She remembered the survival lessons from her training. Predators respect strength and respect caution. Show both, and they may let you live. The creature finally stopped a few feet away. Its green eyes studied her. Then, with a sudden move, it pounced, not at her, but the food. Lyra pulled back slightly, letting it take the meat. Its teeth tore through it quickly, and then it looked back at her. There was something in the predator's eyes that Lyra couldn't name. Intelligence? Gratitude? Or maybe just recognition. She didn't know. She only knew that she had survived the first encounter. Lyra's legs shook, but she smiled faintly. "Not bad," she whispered. The predator growled softly, and then, unexpectedly, it sat down. Its posture was relaxed now. It wasn't ready to attack, but wasn't friendly either. It was observing. Lyra knew she had to keep her guard up. She slowly reached into her pack again, this time pulling out some water. She poured a little into the dirt in front of the creature. It sniffed, then lapped it up quickly. Hours passed. The forest around them grew darker as the sun dipped behind massive trees. Lyra and the predator stayed close, but didn't touch each other. There was a silent agreement. Neither would attack. But danger was never far on Arca 7. A rustle in the bushes, louder than the usual, made Lyra jump. The predator growled, low and warning. Something big was coming. Its body tensed. Lyra's heart pounded. She had survived the crash. She had survived the hunger. But could she survive what was coming? The bushes shook violently. Something massive moved through the underbrush. Lyra could see glimpses of dark shapes, moving fast, almost silently. The predator's growl became louder, more aggressive. It stepped in front of her, its body a shield. Lyra felt a surge of strange trust. Then, from the shadows, a large creature leapt out. Its skin was rough, armored, and its eyes glowed red. The predator hissed and bared its teeth. Lyra froze. There was no running this time. Not with the predator in front of her. The massive creature charged. Lyra could hear the thud of its heavy steps. She grabbed a sharp rock from the ground, holding it tightly. But instinct told her not to attack yet. The predator growled again and leapt at the creature, claws extended. The two clashed with a loud roar. Lyra could barely keep up. The sounds were deafening. Trees shook, leaves flew, and the ground trembled. But then, the predator used a quick, clever move. It dodged, struck, and finally forced the massive creature to retreat. It limped away, defeated for now. Lyra's legs gave out, and she fell to the ground. The predator came back, looking at her. Its eyes softened. It sniffed her cautiously. Then it nudged her gently with its head. Lyra laughed weakly. "We survived, huh?" For the first time since her crash, Lyra felt a strange bond. She didn't know if she could trust this predator fully, but she knew this. They had survived together, and maybe, just maybe, they could survive more. As night fell, the predator curled up nearby, keeping watch. Lyra sat against a tree, exhausted, but alive. She watched the stars appear through the canopy. Somewhere in the distance, strange lights flickered. Another sign of life, or danger, she wasn't sure. But for now, she was safe. And the predator was not an enemy. Not yet. A small smile crossed her face. This was the unexpected turning point. Alone, she had feared everything. Now, with a wild predator by her side, she realized survival might not be just about hiding. It might be about learning, adapting, and trusting even the unlikeliest allies. Hours passed. The forest was alive with night sounds. Hoots, shrieks, and distant roars. Lyra closed her eyes for a moment, feeling the predator's steady breathing. Somehow, it felt comforting. She knew that tomorrow would be harder. Arca, 7 never gave an easy day. But for the first time, she felt a glimmer of hope. The predator growled softly in its sleep. Not aggressive, just alert. And in that sound, Lyra heard a promise. They would face the forest together. Tomorrow, they would hunt. Tomorrow, they would explore. Tomorrow, they would survive. But tonight, they were alive. And in the wild heart of Arca, 7, that was victory enough. The forest whispered around them. Danger and life coexisted. And Lyra, the young human, had taken the first step in becoming something stronger than she had ever imagined. The predator's eyes flicked open briefly. Its gaze met hers. And for a brief moment, words were not needed. Mutual understanding passed between them. Lyra knew one thing. This was just a beginning. And tomorrow, the real test would come. The morning sun broke through the thick canopy of Arca 7, scattering golden beams across the wet forest floor. Lyra awoke to the soft rustle of leaves and the sound of her companion breathing steadily. The predator, which she now called Rin, had shifted slightly during the night, keeping one eye open. Its green eyes scanned the forest, sharp and alert. Lyra sat up slowly, careful not to disturb it. She had spent the night thinking. 2 days ago, she had been alone, desperate, hungry, and terrified. Now, she had a creature by her side, one that could kill her in seconds, yet had chosen not to. That decision, she realized, had changed everything. Lyra's stomach growled. She had rationed her food carefully, but it was almost gone. She looked at Rin, who had also eaten its fill. Somehow, they had survived together. But survival alone was not enough. She needed to find more food and water before the next nightfall. Rin stood and stretched, its claws scratching the damp earth. It let out a low, questioning growl, looking at Lyra. She understood immediately. They were going to hunt. Lyra nodded. "All right, let's do this together." The predator's ears twitched, and it moved closer, allowing her to follow. They slipped through the jungle silently, a strange but effective team. Lyra carried a small knife and a few makeshift tools from her crashed ship, while Rin used its sharp senses to track movement. Hours passed. The forest was alive with sound, distant roars, bird calls, and the whisper of leaves in the wind. Lyra noticed subtle signs. Broken branches, footprints in mud, and the faint scent of prey. Rin paused suddenly, its body low and tense. Lyra crouched behind a fallen log, her heart pounding. Through the shadows, they saw a small herd of graze-finned creatures, strange herbivores with tough scales and long necks. Perfect for a first-joint hunt. Lyra's mind raced. She knew she could throw a small spear, but alone, she would never manage it. With Rin, they had a chance. She signaled subtly, remembering the predator's earlier movements. Rin understood instinctively. With a sudden burst of speed, Rin charged from the left, creating a diversion. The herd panicked, scattering. Lyra darted forward from the opposite side, aiming carefully. One creature faltered. Rin lunged at it, pinning it with strength far beyond its size. Lyra approached cautiously, her hands steady. Together, they brought down the prey. Blood sprayed the ground, and for a moment, Lyra felt a wave of fear mixed with triumph. Rin growled softly, almost proudly. Lyra laughed, wiping sweat from her forehead. "Good job," she whispered. "We make a good team." For the first time, Lyra felt something she hadn't in days. Connection. Not with humans, she had none, but with this wild, dangerous creature beside her. She knelt and carefully began preparing the meat, while Rin watched silently, not interfering. It had learned to trust her, at least enough to allow her near its kill. As they ate, the forest around them seemed quieter, as if acknowledging the unusual bond forming. Lyra spoke softly, almost to herself. "I don't know how we survive here, but I think we can." Rin nudged her hand gently, almost like it understood. Lyra smiled. She had read stories of humans bonding with wolves or big cats, but this was different. Rin was alien, dangerous, and unpredictable, yet somehow they had formed a fragile trust. The meal finished, they rested. Lyra cleaned her knife and checked the forest for signs of other predators. Suddenly, a loud snap echoed nearby. Lyra froze. Rin's growl sharpened instantly. Its tail flicked nervously. Something large was coming. From the shadows, a hunting pack emerged. Larger predators than Rin, with armor hides and glowing red eyes. Lyra's heart jumped. She was not equipped to fight them alone. She glanced at Rin. Its muscles tensed, a low, warning growl rumbling from its chest. The pack circled, moving with terrifying precision. Lyra realized they were not here for her. They wanted Rin. One of the creatures stepped forward, snarling. Rin hissed back, crouching low. Lyra took a deep breath, gripping her knife tightly. She knew she had a choice, run or stand. Running would get her killed, and Rin might not survive. Standing meant risking everything. But she had a plan. "Stay close," she whispered to Rin. The predator's ears twitched. It understood. Lyra picked up a small branch and snapped it loudly. Instantly, the pack's attention shifted. Rin leapt forward with unmatched speed, striking one predator before it could attack. Lyra flung her branch, distracting another. Chaos erupted. The forest trembled with the sounds of growls, roars, and snapping branches. Hours, or maybe minutes, passed in a blur of motion. Lyra moved instinctively, following Rin's lead. They dodged attacks, using the terrain to their advantage. Finally, Rin made a clever move, causing the pack to retreat temporarily. Lyra gasped, exhausted but alive. She looked at Rin, panting. "We survived." Again. Rin circled her slowly, sniffing. Its green eyes locked onto hers. Lyra reached out carefully, placing a hand on its head. Rin stayed still, allowing her to touch it. It was a small gesture, but it meant the world. Mutual trust had been tested, and it had held. As the sun set, Lyra realized something important. The forest of Arca, 7 was merciless. It would kill anyone weak, alone, or careless. But together, they had a chance. A real chance. Night fell. Lyra and Rin found a safe clearing to rest. Lyra used leaves and branches to make a small bed, while Rin curled nearby. She watched the stars twinkle through the canopy. Somehow, the danger day felt like a lesson, an awakening. She had learned that survival wasn't just about strength. It was about trust, cleverness, and courage. Hours later, Lyra drifted into a light sleep. Rin's watchful eyes scanned the forest. The predator occasionally growled softly, but not at her. It was alert, aware, protective. A strange bond had formed. Neither human nor predator had fully accepted the other, but each knew they depended on the other for survival. In her dreams, Lyra imagined the forest alive with glowing eyes, unknown dangers and possibilities. The crash, the hunger, the fear, it all seemed distant. She had Rin. They had survived together, and she knew the forest still held many challenges, but they would face them side by side. When she woke, the sky was painted with dawn. Birds with luminous feathers flitted across the trees. Lyra stretched, checking her supplies. Rin nudged her, signaling it was ready to move again. She smiled faintly. "Another day," she whispered. "Another chance to survive together." As they moved deeper into the forest, Lyra noticed subtle signs. tracks of unknown creatures, remnants of abandoned camps, and a faint shimmer in the distance. Something new was waiting for them, something that could change everything. Rin's growl was low and steady. Lyra understood immediately. The forest was not yet done testing them, but she also understood something else. She was no longer just a survivor. With Rin by her side, she was a hunter, a strategist, someone who could face the wild on its own terms. The bond between human and predator was growing, forged in shared danger, mutual respect, and the unspoken understanding that one misstep could mean death. But in this shared struggle, they had found something rare, trust. And trust, Lyra knew, could be more powerful than any weapon in the galaxy. As the forest swallowed them in shadows and light, one thing was clear. The journey had only begun. The predator and the human, unlikely allies in a merciless world, would face challenges that would test not just their strength, but their very spirits. And tomorrow, Lyra thought, they would hunt again. Only this time, the stakes would be higher, the dangers greater, and the forest far more unpredictable. The dawn on Arca, 7 was quiet, almost too quiet. The mist hovered over forest floor, wrapping the trees in ghostly shapes. Lyra rubbed her tired eyes. Last night had been exhausting. Surviving the ambush of the pack of predators had drained every ounce of her energy. But sleep was a luxury she could not afford. She glanced at Rin. The predator was already awake, ears twitching, tail flicking in anticipation. Lyra knew instinctively, today would not be easy. All right, Rin, she whispered, we need to find food and fast. Something big. Rin responded with a low, approving growl. Its green eyes scanned the forest, picking up scents and movements Lyra couldn't even notice. She had learned quickly, in this jungle, senses matter more than weapons, more than speed. They moved silently, slipping through ferns and roots, every step careful. Lyra had learned Rin's signals. When it crouched low, she crouched too. When it paused, she paused. The predator had become her guide, her shield, and, strangely enough, her teacher. Hours passed. The forest was alive with distant roars and sharp cries of prey animals. Lyra spotted movement. A small herd of flesh-winged grazers, alien creatures with tough hides and sharp horns. Perfect hunting targets for both of them. She signaled to Rin with a subtle hand gesture. The predator crouched, ears flat, ready to move. Lyra took a deep breath. This would be their first coordinated hunt of something that could fight back. Rin moved first, stealthy and fast, circling the herd from the left. Lyra ran from the right, keeping her movement slow but precise. The herd panicked, scattering in different directions. Lyra's heart raced as she calculated the steps in her head. She couldn't afford mistakes. One grazer's faltered. Rin pounced, claws extended, teeth bared. Lyra moved in, spear ready, guiding the creature's escape path. Together, they trapped it in a narrow clearing. With a final leap, Rin pinned the creature. Lyra ran forward and struck with her spear, ending the hunt. The predator let out a low, satisfied growl. Lyra wiped sweat and blood from her forehead, panting. We did it, she whispered. She had felt fear and excitement at the same time, a dangerous mix, but exhilarating. As they ate, a sense of camaraderie grew. Lyra shared small pieces of food carefully with Rin, and the predator ate from her hand without hesitation. She marveled at his intelligence. It was more than instinct now. There was understanding, even appreciation. After their meal, Lyra leaned against a tree, tired but alert. Rin lay beside her, watching the forest. For a moment, the world seemed still. But Arca, 7 never stayed quiet for long. A sudden sound shattered the calm. A low rumble echoed through the trees. Lyra's pulse quickened. Rin stiffened immediately, growling low and warningly. Something massive was approaching. From the shadows emerged an alpha predator, far larger than Rin, with jagged horns and glowing red eyes. Its presence was terrifying, and Lyra instinctively stepped back. She knew the creature was dangerous. It was strong enough to kill both of them. Rin's growl deepened. Its body tense, crouched low, ready to strike. Lyra realized she had to trust it completely. She took a deep breath and whispered, "We fight together." The alpha predator charged. Lyra jumped aside, rolling to avoid its massive claws. Rin leapt into action, slashing and biting with speed Lyra had never seen. She joined in, using rocks, sticks, and anything she could find to distract it. The battle was intense. Lyra's heart pounded. She ducked under a swinging paw, rolled past snapping jaws, and scrambled up a tree to avoid being crushed. From above, she could see Rin circling the alpha predator, dodging attacks and striking when it was vulnerable. It became a deadly dance. Lyra threw stones, aimed carefully, and yelled to distract the creature. Rin responded with precision, every move perfectly timed. The alpha predator roared, a sound that shook the trees. Lyra felt fear squeeze her chest, but she kept moving, trusting Rin's instincts. Finally, with a combined effort, Rin leapt onto the alpha predator's back, biting and clawing at its neck, while Lyra threw a sharp stick into its eye. The creature staggered, letting out a final roar before collapsing to the forest floor. Lyra collapsed beside Rin, breathing heavily. The predator nudged her gently, as if acknowledging her courage. She laughed weakly, blood and sweat on her face. We did it together. For the first time, Lyra realized that survival was not just about strength. It was about trust, teamwork, and courage. Rin had not only protected her, but had also learned to rely on her. And she had learned to rely on it. They rested for hours, hiding from other predators that might have been drawn by the noise. Lyra cleaned her knife and checked the forest for movement. Rin remained alert, occasionally growling softly. She knew the jungle would test them again, and soon. As the sun began to set, Lyra and Rin made their way to a small clearing near a stream. The water was clean, a rare find in Arca 7. They drank cautiously, listening for any sounds. Lyra noticed subtle signs, footprints of another predator, distant growls, and the faint glimmer of something metallic among the trees. She realized they were not alone. Someone, or something, was watching. Rin's ears twitched. Its tail flicked in warning. Lyra felt a shiver run down her spine. The jungle was alive with threats, and the bond she had formed with Rin would be tested again. Night fell quickly. The forest became darker, the shadows deeper. Lyra built a small fire, careful to hide it from potential predators. Rin circled the clearing, alert. For the first time, Lyra allowed herself to feel a strange sense of companionship. They were no longer just hunter and prey. They were partners, allies, and in a world as unforgiving as Arca 7, that was more than enough to survive. As they rested, Lyra reflected on the day. She had fought, hunted, and survived alongside a creature that could easily have killed her. She had learned its movements, its habits, and its thoughts in ways she had never thought possible. Rin had learned to trust her, to follow her lead when needed, and to respect her courage. The bond was fragile, but it was real. And tomorrow, they would face new challenges, stronger creatures, and unknown dangers. But for tonight, they were alive, and alive together. Rin lay down beside her, curling around her small frame protectively. Lyra closed her eyes, letting exhaustion wash over her. She knew that Arca 7 would not go easy on them. More hunts, more fights, more danger awaited. But with Rin by her side, she felt ready for anything. The jungle whispered around them, alive with unseen eyes and hidden predators. Lyra drifted into sleep, comforted by the steady presence of her unlikely companion. The forest was dangerous, unpredictable, and deadly, but for the first time, she felt that she had a chance to master it. And as the stars twinkled above, Lyra knew one thing for certain. She and Rin had survived together. They had fought together. And together, they would face whatever the wild heart of Arca 7 had in store next. The sky over Arca 7 was not empty for long. Lyra had barely slept when she noticed it. Small glimmers of light flickering through the treetops. At first, she thought it was a reflection of the sun on some strange alien leaves. But then, a sharp mechanical hum filled the air. "Rin, look," she whispered. The predator's ears flattened, tail twitching nervously. Its green eyes scanned the sky. And then they saw them. Alien ships, small but deadly, swooping low over the forest canopy. They were hunters, and they were looking for something, or someone. Lyra's heart pounded. She had survived the jungle, fought predators, hunted with Rin, but she had never faced enemies like this. They're here for Rin, she realized aloud. Or maybe both of us. Rin growled, low and warningly, its body tensed. Lyra knew instinctively running would be fatal. The forest could hide them, but the ships had sensors, weapons, and speed that no human or predator could match. Lyra scanned the clearing. They needed a plan. Listen, she said, her voice firm despite the fear in her chest. We split. You draw them to the cliffs. They can't follow. I'll lead them away from the clearing. We survive together. Rin tilted its head, considering her words. Its instinct screamed danger, but had learned to trust her. Slowly, it nodded, or as close as a predator could manage. The first ship descended, its metallic hull reflecting the morning sun. A searchlight swept the clearing. Lyra ducked behind a fallen tree, heart hammering. Rin crept along the shadows, moving with terrifying speed and precision. The jungle was alive with noise, birds squawking, trees rustling, and the hum of alien engines. Lyra could see the alien hunters now, humanoid figures inside the ships, their weapons aimed, scanning for movement. She took a deep breath, calculating her move. If she could distract them long enough, Rin could lead one of the ships into cliffs, where the predator's speed and strength would give them an advantage. She grabbed a small branch, snapping it loudly, and threw it into the bushes. Immediately, the searchlight swung. One of the hunters spotted movement. Lyra sprinted into the underbrush, zigzagging between trees, drawing attention to herself. Rin leapt from tree to tree, silently moving behind her. The hunters fired small pulses of energy, scorching leaves and bark. Lyra dodged, ducked, and rolled, using every instinct she had learned in the jungle. The predator's presence beside her was a strange comfort. It was not just an ally. It was a force of nature she had grown to rely on. As they moved deeper into the forest, Lyra noticed the hunters splitting. Two were following her, while one went after Rin. The predator hissed and growled, its body low and ready. It would strike when the moment was right. Lyra led her pursuers into a narrow canyon. She knew the terrain well, slippery rocks, hidden roots, and steep drops. She climbed swiftly, forcing the hunters to slow down. Their shouts and curses echoed off the canyon walls. Meanwhile, Rin used the dense jungle to its advantage. It darted between trees, leapt over boulders, and finally confronted the lone hunter ship near the cliffs. With a speed no human could match, it launched itself at the craft, slashing and biting. The ship rocked violently, crashing into the cliffside, and sparks flew everywhere. Lyra, exhausted but determined, reached the top of the canyon and paused. From here, she could see the forest spread out below. She heard the sound of combat, Rin's growls, alien shouts, and the occasional hum of energy weapons. Her chest ached with adrenaline and fear. She had one choice left: escape the remaining hunters or fight them head-on. Instinct and training told her to fight. But she was human, and her strength alone was limited. She needed Rin. "Rin!" she called, her voice sharp. The predator emerged from the shadows, fur bristling, claws, and teeth ready. It had finished with its ship. Now it was hers to protect. The hunters realized too late that their target had allies. Rin's speed and strength were unmatched, and Lyra had the terrain on her side. Together, they became a whirlwind of coordinated attacks. Lyra threw rocks, swung branches, and used her knife when close, while Rin struck with precision, knocking hunters off balance and into trees. The battle raged for what felt like hours. Sweat, blood, and adrenaline mixed as Lyra and Rin fought with everything they had. The hunters were relentless, but they had underestimated the bond between human and predator. Every move Lyra made, Rin anticipated, and vice versa. Finally, the last hunter attempted to retreat into the forest. Lyra seized a chance. She threw a sharp rock, hitting the ship's control panel. Sparks flew, and the craft spiraled into a tree, crashing with a loud explosion. Silence fell. Lyra sank to the ground, breathing heavily. Rin crouched beside her, ears twitching, eyes scanning the forest for any remaining threats. She reached out, placing a hand on its head. The predator allowed it, a silent acknowledgement of trust. "We made it," she whispered, voice shaking from exhaustion and relief. "Together." The forest around them was quiet again. Only the distant calls of creatures and the rustling leaves remained. Lyra knew this victory was temporary. Arca, 7 was unforgiving and more challenges awaited. But for the first time, she felt a sense of accomplishment, a sense of real survival. Rin nudged her gently, and Lyra smiled faintly. She had learned something vital today. Trust, courage, and teamwork could overcome even the most advanced enemies. Alone, she would have died. But together, human and predator had survived. As night fell, they moved to a safer clearing near a stream. Lyra built a small fire, careful to keep it low. Rin lay beside her, eyes alert. They both knew that danger could return at any moment, from sky or land, but for now, they had survived. Lyra closed her eyes for a moment, letting exhaustion wash over her. She knew that tomorrow would bring new tests, bigger predators, stranger creatures, and possibly more alien hunters. But with Rin by her side, she felt ready. The bond between them had grown stronger in the heat of battle. Trust had been earned, not given. And in the wild heart of Arca 7, that trust was more valuable than any weapon, any plan, or any ally. Rin's soft growl was the last sound Lyra heard before sleep claimed her. It was not aggressive. It was a guardian sound, a promise that they faced the forest together. And together, they would survive whatever came next. The stars appeared above the jungle canopy, twinkling like distant eyes watching their story unfold. Lyra knew that tomorrow would be a test unlike any other. But tonight, she had learned a powerful truth. With trust, courage, and the right ally, even the deadliest threats could be faced and survived. Tomorrow, she thought, would bring new challenges. But with Rin, the predator who had once growled at her for food, she felt ready for anything. The morning light barely pierced through the thick canopy of Arca 7. Lyra's body ached from yesterday's battle. Her muscles were sore, her hands scraped, but exhaustion was the least of her worries. Somewhere in the distance, the faint hum of engines echoed, a reminder that the alien hunters were not finished. She glanced at Rin. The predator lay beside her, alert as ever, its green eyes scanning the tree line. They had survived the forest, the hunting packs, and the alien ambush. But now, a greater challenge awaited. From the distant cliffs, a blinding light streaked across the sky. A massive alien craft descended, its hull larger than any she had seen. A vibration shook the ground, sending leaves and debris flying. Lyra's breath caught. This is bad," she muttered. Rin's growl deepened. Its entire body tensed. Lyra knew immediately. This was no ordinary hunter. The ship was equipped to destroy the entire forest, if not the planet itself. Its sensors were sweeping, scanning for life forms. And if they found Rin or her, there would be no chance of survival. Lyra's mind raced. She had fought, survived, and hunted, but she was human. Her strength, her skills, they had limits. Rin was powerful, but even its speed and cunning might not be enough against a weapon this advanced. She had a choice: run and leave Rin behind, or fight and risk everything. Lyra's eyes met Rin's. The predator understood. Its tail flicked, a silent signal that it was ready to face whatever came next. She felt a surge of determination. "We fight together," she whispered. The alien craft hovered over the clearing, deploying smaller drones to scan the area. Lyra and Rin moved stealthily, slipping through the underbrush toward the ship. Every step was calculated, every breath measured. The jungle, which had been their refuge, now became their battlefield. Rin darted forward, silent and deadly, taking out a few drones with swift, precise strikes. Lyra followed, hurling rocks, swinging her knife, and using the terrain to her advantage. The aliens fired back with energy pulses, scorching the ground and sending sparks flying. They reached the base of the cliffs. Lyra's eyes widened. The ship's main weapon, a massive cannon capable of obliterating entire sections of forest, was charging. Time was running out. "We have to destroy it," Lyra said urgently. "We can't let them win." Rin growled in agreement, its body quivered with energy and anticipation. Together, they began climbing the rocky cliffs, moving faster than the aliens expected. Lyra spotted a control panel, exposed near the ship's base. If they could reach it, they could disable the weapon. The climb was treacherous. Rocks crumbled under their weight, Energy blasts scorched the cliffside. Lyra's hands bled, but she pushed on. Rin leapt ahead, knocking drones aside, protecting her from incoming fire. Finally, they reached the panel. Lyra pressed her hands against the alien console, trying to decipher the strange symbols. Sweat dripped into her eyes. Sparks flew from the damaged machinery. Every second felt like an eternity. Rin growled behind her. She could feel the predator's heartbeat, steady, powerful, unwavering. Somehow, that presence gave her courage. She focused, moving fingers across buttons, levers, and strange switches. The alien weapons hum began to slow. The aliens realized what was happening. One of them leapt toward Lyra, energy blade raised. Rin sprang into action, claws extended. The predator met the attacker midair, throwing it back with brutal force. Lyra turned back just in time to see Rin's strength on full display. The countdown for the weapon ticked faster. Lyra's hands flew over controls. Sparks and smoke filled the area. The alien ship shuddered violently. One final push. She pressed the last lever, and a deafening alarm blared. The cannon powered down, the charge dissipating. Silence. Lyra sank to the ground, exhausted. Rin lay beside her, breathing heavily but alive. They had done it. They had stopped the weapon. The alien craft hovered for a moment, as if assessing the situation. Then, with a thunderous roar, it lifted off and retreated, disappearing into the sky. Lyra let out a breath. She didn't know she was holding. Rin nudged her gently. Lyra smiled through fatigue and pain. "We did it together," she whispered. They descended the cliff slowly, carefully. The forest below was damaged, trees scorched, foliage trampled, but alive. Small creatures cautiously emerged, peeking from the shadows. Lyra realized something important. Survival was not just about strength or skill. It was about trust, courage, and the right ally. For days, they had faced impossible odds. Together, they had hunted, fought, and survived. And now, they had saved not just themselves, but part of the forest from total destruction. Lyra knelt beside a stream, watching the water ripple in the sunlight. Rin drank beside her, careful not to splash. She ran her fingers through her hair, exhausted but relieved. "Rin, I don't know what would have happened without you," she murmured. The predator's eyes met hers. In that gaze, Lyra saw understanding, loyalty, and something deeper. A bond had been forged, stronger than fear, hunger, or danger. They were not just allies, they were family, in a way that transcended words. As night fell, they found a safe clearing to rest. Lyra built a small fire, careful to hide it. Rin curled around her, protective and alert. The stars appeared above the canopy, shining like distant watchers of their story. Lyra thought about the journey. She had crashed on this alien planet, alone and frightened. She had faced predators, hunted for survival, and battled alien hunters. But through every danger, she had not been alone. She had Rin. The forest whispered around them, alive with unseen creatures and hidden threats. But Lyra no longer feared it. She had learned to adapt, to trust, and to fight, not just with strength, but with strategy and courage. Rin's low growl was the last sound she heard before sleep claimed her. It was not a warning. It was a promise that whatever came next, they would face it together. Lyra smiled faintly. Tomorrow, the forest would still be dangerous. But tonight, they had survived, together, and in that moment, she understood something vital. Family is not always born from blood. Sometimes it is forged in fire, trust, and shared struggle. The forest around them seemed almost peaceful now. The alien threat had retreated. The predators of Arca, 7 lay quiet, cautious, respecting the presence of the young human and her companion. Lyra drifted into a deep, exhausted sleep. Rin curled protectively beside her. The journey was far from over. Arca, 7 still held mysteries, dangers, and challenges. But Lyra had grown stronger, braver, and wiser. She had learned to survive and to lead. And Rin, the predator who had once growled at her for food, had become her ally, her protector, and her friend. Together, they had faced death, fought impossible odds, and emerged victorious. Tomorrow, the jungle would wake again. The dangers would return. But tonight, Lyra and Rin had earned a moment of peace, a victory that belonged to them both. In the heart of Arca, 7, survival was more than skill. It was courage, trust, and the bond between unlikely allies. And for Lyra and Rin, that bond was unbreakable. They had shared a hunt. They had shared danger. They had shared life. And in the wild heart of the galaxy, that was the greatest victory of all.